Earlier this year, the Coca-Cola company decided it was going to rename one of its most iconic brands. Yes, Lilt, the drink with a totally tropical taste and a brand that has been around since 1975, is now known by the name Fanta, Pineapple and Grapefruit. Why this needed to be done, I really don't know, but it did get me thinking of other soft drink brands that are now sadly defunct. In today's video, I'll be taking a nostalgic look back at a selection of lost soft drinks that have long since disappeared from the nation's corner shops and supermarkets. Now, just before we launch into our retro drinks list, let's take a moment to remember Lilt as it used to be.
Here comes the Lilt man. Lilt. Here comes the Lilt man. Lilt. With a totally tropical taste. Pineapple and grapefruit. Lilt. And the sun is bright. Lilt. And the sand is white. Lilt. With a totally tropical taste. With a totally tropical taste. Lilt.
From a true nostalgia standpoint, when talking about soft drinks of the past, there is surely nothing that brings back such warm memories as the Pop Man. What a moment it was every week when, as a child, you would hear the rumble of the lorry pull up outside your house, followed by the clang of the glass bottles on the doorstep. Bottles filled with fizzy pop flavours such as cream soda, dandelion and burdock, limeade and cherryade. The two main brands that made door-to-door deliveries were Corona and Alpine, although there were probably others available too, depending on where in the UK you lived. The word Corona is obviously associated with something else these days, but for more than a century it meant just one thing: pop. Alpine wasn't around as long as Corona, but it still had a near 50-year run before finally bowing out in the late 90s. Before we move on to our next entry, who remembers the classic TV ad for Corona from the 70s?
Come on, come on, come on, move, move, move! These aren't just any old bubbles getting into this bottle of Corona. No, sir. Are they fizzy? Everyone has passed the Corona physical. Nice. Oh, it's really tough back there. No, no, no!
Corona. Every bubble's past its physical.
That's it, boys. Let's see your fizz, fizz, fizz!
Another name that is always sure to get mentioned when reminiscing about soft drinks of the past is Cresta. Mainly because of the memorable advertising campaign fronted by the Cresta Bear, whose catchphrase was,
"It's frothy, man."
These fantastic adverts were created by the same agency responsible for the Smash Aliens and the Sugar Puffs Honey Monster. Cresta was different to other types of pop on the market in that, rather than being a fizzy drink, it was, as stated in the slogan, frothy. The flavours were fruit-based, with available varieties being strawberry, orange, lemon and lime and pineapple. In later years, a blackcurrant version was added to the range.
Baby, I will be your ever-loving fan. Give me the drink I really love, a bottle or a can. It's frothy, man. I don't want to drink the ocean, 'cause man, that's really rough. But when it comes to Cresta, here's one bear that just can't get enough. It's frothy, man.
Remember when school tuck shops actually sold things that kids wanted to buy, rather than products that someone on a committee thinks they should be buying? During the 70s and 80s, the soft drink of choice at tuck shops across the land was Panda Pops. Mainly due to the low price point and smaller size bottle, the Panda Pops range was hugely popular with young children. Flavours included cherry, strawberry, blue raspberry and even a jelly and ice cream flavour. Unfortunately, Panda Pops were extremely heavy on the sugar content and, by 2011, the brand was axed by its parent company due to growing concerns about children's health. Speaking of being school age, there was nothing that made you feel more grown up than drinking either a Top Deck Shandy or a Shandy Bass. Even though they contain the tiniest amount of alcohol, indeed the very bare minimum, the very fact that there was even a trace of it in these drinks made every child feel like an adult. Top Deck came in a range of flavours, including your standard lemonade shandy, a cider shandy, and even a limeade and lager version. Today it would probably be considered unthinkable to promote a soft drink for the younger market containing the word lager in its name. Top Deck cans were adorned with the by royal appointment seal, so it seems that someone at Buckingham Palace was a fan. Although there were many brands of shandy available at the time, the main rival to Top Deck was Shandy Bass. Bass Brewery marketed Shandy Bass as the true beer shandy, making it quite irresistible to children who wanted to emulate their parents. The fact that Shandy Bass came in a beer-style bottle as well as a can made it seem all the more authentic. Drink a bottle of Shandy Bass while pretending to smoke a candy cigarette or a licorice pipe, and you were ready to take on the world. If you remember Quattro but can't quite recall the decade in which it was popular, it isn't too difficult to work it out. From the name to the packaging and the advertising campaign, everything about the drink Quattro screams 1980s. If you're still not sure, take a look at this. First launched in 1982 by Coca-Cola, Quattro only lasted 4 years before being discontinued in the UK. However, it is still available in many South American countries. The flavour of Quattro was very similar to another fruit-based drink from Coca-Cola, Lilt, containing as it did hints of pineapple, grapefruit, orange and passion fruit, each of these represented by the 4 coloured squares on the can. As Quattro was so typically 80s, perhaps it's fitting that it was both launched and discontinued in that very decade. Another Coca-Cola brand that is now defunct is Tab. First introduced in the United States during the 60s, Tab was launched in the UK in the 1970s. Tab was one of Coca-Cola's first forays into the world of diet drinks, and it quickly became a popular alternative to classic Coke, although it never sold quite as well in the UK as in its native US. In 1982, Coca-Cola introduced Diet Coke to the world, which saw the popularity of Tab take a bit of a hit. A new variant, Tab Clear, was launched in the early 90s, but it didn't last long. Despite Diet Coke taking over as a premium fizzy drink for the calorie conscious, it was only in 2020 that Coca-Cola announced it was going to cease production of Tab in the United States. Personally, I've never been a fan of bubblegum, so there was no chance I was ever going to take to a fizzy drink that tasted of the wretched stuff. Hubba Bubba Soda was launched in the late 80s and was discontinued in the 90s. I can't say whether Hubba Bubba Soda actually tasted like bubblegum because I never drank one. This isn't a drink I'd like to see make a comeback, but I'm sure there are plenty of you out there who would. Of all the drinks featured in this video, perhaps the most obscure one is Jokers from Quash. Promoted as funny, frothy and fabulous fun, Quash Jokers drink was also said to be full of fantastical fizz. Available in flavours such as Orangeade and Cherryade, each can of Jokers featured legendary cartoon duo Tom and Jerry, as well as a joke that you could then tell to all your friends at school. Sadly today, using characters which appeal to children to promote sugary carbonated drinks is no longer allowed, but back in the 1970s when Quash Joker's drink was on the market, we didn't worry about all that. Thanks for joining me on this little trip down Nostalgia Alley. Hopefully it brought back some warm memories for you. Please do join me next time for more nostalgic goodness.